Okay, guys, welcome back to the show. We have Stich Duran joining us. How's it going, man?
Oh, I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me on, brother.
Oh, I appreciate it. So let's just kick everything off by talking about this Reebok deal. You have been making some headlines in recent days over it. Just talk about how this deal affects the Cutmen.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because people have been hitting me up and I've been a little vocal on that. But yeah, it does. It definitely hits me. Probably more so than the other cut man because I had all these major sponsors, and then in doing that, I always looked after the other cut men. So I would sell, let's say, Bad Boy or Tap Out or One More Round, and Science. These were the guys that were giving me some support. I would sell them in the program for the other cut man to get them,
Sure.
some kind of fees also. And I mean, monetarily it affects me a lot more than it does them, but nonetheless, at the end of the year, what they're losing is pretty substantial also.
If things are not changed in this aspect, will you be leaving the UFC?
No, those aren't my plans at all. I love working the fights. I'm still doing other things that are bring money in, and
Sure.
I just booked a couple major boxing fights coming up, and so no, I really enjoy working them. It just it'd be nice if they at least stop, look, listen, and had a discussion with us. I'm talking about the UFC and the Reebok, and then find out a little bit what we're giving them and what in turn they could get from us, at least when it comes with exposure. So no, it just the fans and the media, you guys have really been very supportive in what we're doing, and specifically my name pops up on top because kind of like the spokesman for all the guys. But
Sure.
nonetheless, this is a team effort, and we're trying to get a little bit of recognition. And the thing about it was we're independent contractors, and we're not working. We work with the UFC, but we're not part of the UFC contingency. But so how did that still affect us when we're just kind of like the quiet guys in the middle of
Sure.
this whole thing, and we didn't get no recognition. Kind of like the forgotten soldiers.
Okay, man, I recently sat down in front of the tube and threw in this movie, Play It to the Bone. Just talk about your involvement in that movie.
Oh wow, that was and surprisingly enough, that was the first movie that I've done like 5 movies. I just finished a new Rocky movie called Creed that's coming out Thanksgiving Day. But and it's funny the way my life works because I had worked for R.J. Reynolds Tobacco Company for like something like 23 years, and I took a buyout because the company was downsizing, so it was a great opportunity for me to leave at that point. And that day that I was leaving, I got the call to go audition for the movie with Woody Harrelson and Antonio Banderas, Play It to the Bone, and I got a part on that. But I've also done the last Rocky Balboa movie. I did one Ocean's 11. I was the cut man for Vladimir Klitschko when he fought Lennox Lewis
Right.
when the lights went out and they ripped them off. And I did the one with Kevin James and Salma Hayek, Here Comes the Boom, and just finished this new Creed movie that is really going to take it to a different level because the role that I had is pretty significant compared to the other ones that I had.
Okay, and how'd you enjoy it?
It was tremendous, man. I spent 6 weeks in Philadelphia, right in the winter, the heart of the winter, from February and March, and I got to work side by side and with Sylvester Stallone and Michael B. Jordan, and I was the guy, and in the script my name was Marcel, but Stallone changed it to Stitch, and so I'm Stitch in the movie, which is pretty awesome. But
Yeah.
Michael B. Jordan, that's starring as Creed, the son of Apollo Creed, he's also Torch in the new Fantastic Four coming out. So people are calling him the new Denzel Washington type of guy. So he's the upcoming star. But working with Sylvester Stallone in a Rocky movie, to me, was a blessing. And I think you'll enjoy the movie.
For years, in the combat sports, people have always talked about fight fixing. Do you think this actually happens in the UFC?
No, I don't. No, not at all. You know, I work with these fighters, and you know, and it's funny you bring that up because I was just watching fights on Showtime last Saturday night, and Julio Cesar Chavez is, you know, he's fighting at 178 pounds, and he's fighting this one guy that used to fight at 154 pounds, and they brought him in, so to speak, as an opponent. You know,
Sure.
Does it happen? Does it happen in boxing? Yeah, you know, they definitely give some guys the advantage, but the thing that I love about the UFC is they, you know what, if you're going to come and fight in the UFC, you're going to come and fight. And I haven't seen none of this fixing whatsoever.
Okay, and a few weeks ago, Bellator did this Ken Shamrock versus Kimbo Slice fight. A lot of people were calling that the fix was in for that one. Did you see that fight?
You know, I just saw highlights of it. I didn't see the whole actual fight, but I saw when, you know, when he had the choke on, and then they made the transition, and then he got cracked, and then they stopped the fight. So, you know, I don't know. You know, you don't know what goes into these guys' minds. You don't know how hard, you know, a punch affects another fighter and all that. So I'm not willing to put myself out on a limb and say, yeah, that fight was fixed, because I just don't know that much about it for me to really give you an honest opinion on it.
Okay, we're going into UFC on Fox 16 this weekend. Will you be there, Stitch?
No, you know, I'm working with Beirut Shumanov. He's boxing this weekend.
Okay.
So I'm here in Las Vegas, thank God, because, you know, this last week, you know, I did the Invicta fights on Thursday, and then I did the big UFC fight, 189 in Las Vegas on Saturday, and then Sunday we had another show, and then Tuesday I drove to San Diego so I could do the UFC Wednesday there, and then Thursday morning I had to drive back early in the morning because I did the final two tough Japan fights on Thursday, and then Friday I did 16 fights for the new season 22 with the elimination fights with Conor McGregor and Uriah Faber being the coaches. So I was drained that. So it's nice to stay home and work some fights.
It's nice that you just mentioned all the traveling and stuff, because my next question is, when you're not traveling and working, what does Stitch like to do?
Man, I like to stay home and really just kind of be a slug. But it's all family time. Everything that I do, you know, I don't go out and party, and, you know, I don't go to the bars or anything like that. I just to spend time with, you know, my wife here and, you know, my kids, and, you know, go out to dinner as a family and all that, and just kind of chill out and be Jacob, you know, and not Stitch. So it's, you know, in fact, sometimes my wife tells me, you know, you got to do something because you just sit on your ass doing nothing. You know?
Right.
So something, I think I've earned that right.
What do you think of all these changes that the commissions have made with the drug suspensions and now not allowing IVs after weight cuts?
Yeah, that's you know, those are transitions that are happening, and, you know, people have asked me about that, and the IV thing. That was, I guess, you know, some of the fighters, and obviously the IV is really a nice way to rehydrate yourself outside of, you know, after a fight, because especially in the MMA industry opposed to boxing. Because in boxing, it's like I was talking to Virgil Hunter, Andre Ward's trainer, the other day. In boxing, these guys will lose 3 or 4 pounds in a week, right?
Sure.
And then in MMA, these guys lose 15 pounds in one day. So the process of hydrating, instead of just drinking water after water, you know, bottle after bottle of water, you know, that doesn't absorb into your system. So at the end of the day, if you do it, you know, within that 24-hour period you're going to fight, it just becomes water weight. But if you do it through an intravenous, then it gets into the system, really the proper way of doing it. But one of the fighters brought up a point that, you know, if that's going to be such a big problem, why doesn't the commission or why doesn't the UFC supply the bags so that these guys could hydrate, and they could hydrate right there, right after the weigh-in? You know, so that's a pretty simple solution, and to me, I think it makes sense. You know, the long penalties for, you know, the PEDs and all that. You know, I guess, you know, for the most part, you get caught, it's going to ruin your whole career from now on, and I think maybe they had to take that stance because probably was getting a little too carried away. You know, and it's surprising and shocking to see some of these guys' names pop up, you know, and they got busted for some kind of enhancing drug.
Right. Okay, man. Dana White has gone on record as saying everyone is happy with the Reebok deal. Um, any comment on that?
Well, I was in the dressing room for 8 and 9, and I was in the dressing room for the fights on Sunday.
Sure.
I was in the dressing room in San Diego, and there was a lot of the fighters that actually weren't saying that, So the fighters and the trainers, and you look at the fans, you just, you don't see that many of the new UFC outfits that the fans are putting on. So I don't know. I think there's still some tweaking that has to be done, and we'll see what happens.
Okay, man. I appreciate
and I'm a pretty good designer of clothes. I mean, I'm the one that designed the vest that we use,
sure,
and all that. And the UFC would give me some opinions or an offer. I probably would have helped them out to design a different outfit.
Yeah, for sure, man. Okay, one last question here before I let you go. Can you just walk the fans through a typical day of you working for the UFC, from wrapping the hands to working in the cage?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Actually, it's a long day, really, believe it or not. It turns out to be a good 8-9 hour day. But our day starts. Let's say a fight starts, and they normally start at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, right?
Right.
Well, at 1:30, we all get together at the hotel wherever we're staying at, and the first group of fighters that are on the card, they're all there, and then we get our instructions from the coordinators and all that, and what have you not. And then we all get on the bus and head off towards the dressing rooms to the arena. And once we get in the arena, that we as the cutman, we get our equipment. We get the gauze and the tape, and then we get the list of the fighters that we're going to be wrapping, which the coordinators do at the weigh-ins. They'll ask all the fighters whether they want their hands wrapped by one of us. And let's say there's 12 fights, 24 fighters. We'll have 22 of them that want us to wrap their hands. And out of those 22, you probably have, 10 of them that want me to wrap them, and I can't do them all. So we kind of divide them up. But 2 hours before the fighters start, the fighters, once they get into the arena, they'll go into the octagon, and they'll just kind of roll around and get the feeling of the mat and what have you not, and they do their pre-drug test, and as we're getting, our equipment ready. And then when they come into the dressing rooms, that usually, 2 hours before the fight, we start wrapping their hands, and we'll go from the first fight on down, and then come fight time, then I'll always do the first 2 fights, so that way I make sure that everything is situated for the cut man, and we have, the officials know who we are and what we're doing, and I'll talk to the ringside doctors, and I'll get all those particulars done, and then I'll go in the back and I'll continue wrapping the hands of the second group that comes in, which are usually the prelims and the main event fights, and I'm busting my butt there, and then I'll do the last 4 fights, and then once they throw that last punch and they go to the scorecards or the guy gets knocked out, then our job is pretty much done. So we go, we pack everything away and head up to the bus and get to the hotel and chill out a little bit. But it's a long day for us, no doubt.
Yeah, man, that's crazy. Okay, so anyone you'd like to thank or throw out your social media?
No, just, all the fans really have been supporting me with me and the Cutman with this Reebok deal. I know the social media has really picked up on it, and it's nice to get their support, and I want to thank them, but want to thank you also for getting me on the air. I know we were going to do it last week, and things didn't work out, but we did it now, and I hope you enjoy the show, man.